Hello, everyone. Dr. Michael Murray here. Thanks for joining me. This webinar is titled GLP-1 Agonists and Alternatives, What You Need to Know. What a hot topic here, and thank you for joining me. What I want to do first is give you an overview, and this is what I'll be talking about. I want to explain briefly what GLP-1 agonists are and what my concerns are, and then move into what are some ways that we can support the body's own production and activity of this valuable hormone-like compound. So first of all, what is GLP-1? It's a hormone secreted by L cells in the small intestine and colon. And GLP-1 improves insulin action and blood sugar control. It promotes satiety, and this leads to a reduction in food intake, and it regulates the rate of gastric emptying as well, thereby reducing after-meal glucose levels. Drugs that mimic the action of GLP-1 are gaining great popularity out there: Ozempic and Wegovy, Mounjaro and Zepbound. GLP-1 agonists help about 60% of patients achieve a 20% reduction in body weight, but there are side effects, safety issues, and weight regain if they stop taking them. I have some serious concerns about these drugs. First of all, the duration of action is much different than our endogenous GLP-1. When GLP-1 is released in the body, it has a very short half-life. It's broken down almost as quick as it's formed. And these drugs, on the other hand, they may be in our system for as long as a week or more. That's why they have weekly injections. So that's a big difference. And I think there's a wisdom in nature. If it was a great thing, it would have a longer duration of action. So I think the fact that it's broken down so quickly, it's a sign that too much of a good thing is not a good thing. The use of these drugs create a dependence, because when people stop taking them, they regain the weight. The GLP-1 agonists disproportionately promote loss of muscle mass. We may be able to offset that with some nutrition and weight-bearing exercise, but this loss of muscle mass is a real concern, because you all know the importance of lean muscle mass in acting as a furnace and burning our fat, and also how important it is to retain that muscle mass throughout our lifespan. We lose about 50% of our muscle mass by the time we're 80. So if we can prevent that from happening, there's lots of benefits. Or if we can slow it down, GLP-1 agonists, they tend to speed it up. So I don't think that's a good thing. Weight loss without positive changes in diet and lifestyle may not provide long-term benefit. That's my concern. So what I think is important to point out is that it's really a complex issue trying to take a look at the rational use of these GLP-1 agonists. I'm not saying they're not appropriate in all cases, but I think that people have to be aware of the benefits and risks. And I do think there are people that can benefit from these drugs, but they're not the ones that are currently the majority who are taking them. Obesity increases morbidity, but being up to 50 pounds overweight only shortens life expectancy by about 3 years. That is a surprising statistic for me. And I'm going to share with you something else that will surprise you in regards to life expectancy and metabolic disease. Does losing weight improve how people look and feel? Yes, no question. Do the benefits of GLP-1 agonists outweigh potential risks? In certain situations, I think yes, but in most situations, I think no. And these drugs are extremely expensive right now, and that may change in the future. But right now, these are very expensive. And that means that not everybody who needs them is likely to be able to afford them. Obesity increases the risk of many health issues. We know that, right? Nothing new there. Look at all these conditions. Strong links to all of these health issues with greater body weight. So no one's going to argue with that. But take a look at this. This is a chart showing you mortality risk based upon body mass index in the US. And we see thin people, they are also at an increased risk. So this is a U-shaped curve. So we want to be in this ideal BMI range. So underweight is yellow, normal green, slightly overweight orange, and obese and very obese. So if we look at all subjects, and then we look at smokers, or healthy never smokers is what we see here. So the difference between all subjects is that includes smokers. So that's why if you're thin, if you're underweight and you're a smoker, you have the highest mortality rate. So healthy never smokers, if they're underweight, not a big of a deal. I think this is really interesting because it really shows us that you can have a good life expectancy even if you have a slightly higher BMI. But if you're severely underweight or severely overweight, you're gonna have an increased mortality. This is really interesting. I'm going to be brief here, but this is extremely provocative. This is looking at mortality risk based upon body mass index in the metabolic syndrome. So people with normal weight metabolic syndrome, they have the highest mortality rate. Overweight next, obese there, normal weight, no metabolic syndrome. So that would be here. And that's almost equal to overweight, no metabolic syndrome. And that corresponds with that previous slide. And then obese, no metabolic syndrome. What's going on here? If you're obese, but you don't have metabolic syndrome, you have a significantly lower mortality rate, significantly lower mortality rate than someone who is of normal weight that has metabolic syndrome. And here's what I think is going on here. What do we know about diabetes and metabolic syndrome? Well, we look at body weight a lot, but and that is a risk factor, but a more important risk factor may be body burden of persistent organic pollutants. Look at this data. This is back from 2006. I love this research because it's based upon the NHANES studies in the United States, which are government-sponsored diet and nutrition surveys. And what they did is they looked at blood levels of various persistent organic pollutants and correlated it to body mass index and the prevalence of diabetes. And this flips the narrative. And it explains why people that have normal body weight have an increased risk of mortality if they have metabolic syndrome compared to people that have a higher body weight, but they don't have metabolic syndrome and they have a lower mortality risk. So what the study showed was that when they looked at when they stratified subjects based upon their level of the total of 6 persistent organic pollutants, looking at any one persistent organic pollutant didn't show an association, but when they lumped them together, what they found is that if somebody was thin and they had high levels of these persistent organic pollutants, they were 30 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than someone who was significantly obese but had a low level of these persistent organic pollutants. So the level of persistent organic pollutants was more important than body weight. So again, one of my concerns with these GLP-1 agonists is that people are losing muscle mass. And when you're losing muscle mass, that means that you're going to have a higher percentage of fat. And usually with a higher percentage of fat, we see higher levels of these persistent organic pollutants. That's shown here. We see that the rise in these levels are highest in people that are obese compared to the thinner people. So anyway, that was a little segue. I hope you found that interesting, and I hope it leads you to some critical thinking. And maybe we follow this webinar up in looking at ways in which we can help people reduce their body load of these persistent organic pollutants. So these are some of my thoughts on who should consider the use of GLP-1 agonists. The best candidates are those with a BMI over 35. Okay, that's going to eliminate a lot of the people that are currently using these drugs. Those with obesity-related morbidity, especially heart disease and diabetes, those that incorporate necessary lifestyle and dietary strategies that support health. If someone's not going to do the work and support their health while they're on these drugs by making some changes to their diet and lifestyle, there's no purpose in using these drugs. And people should also be aware that these drugs are not without side effects and risks. Who should consider natural alternatives? This is a much bigger pie. Those who cannot afford or do not want to use a GLP-1 agonist, those without significant obesity morbidity, that is, healthy individuals, those that can easily achieve weight loss goals without the use of GLP-1 agonists, and those highly committed to incorporating the necessary lifestyle and dietary strategies that support health. And I'm going to give you some of my top recommendations for helping people lose weight naturally. Number one, I think it's important to keep the pump primed. Focus on quality nutrition, not starvation. If you reduce your food intake and the body thinks it's starving, you're going to be counterproductive in helping the body burn fat and retain muscle mass. Move more and build muscle. Activate non-exercise thermogenesis. If you don't know what that means, it's a it relates to all of the activity that we do during the day that's not related to exercise. Studies conducted by the Mayo Clinic found that the difference in exercise levels in obese individuals versus normal weight individuals was not that different, but it was all of the non-exercise activity that the normal weight people did that's far surpassed what the obese people did. So what that means is sitting more than laying down, standing more than sitting, and just moving more in general. I do believe in the value of modified intermittent fasting with an 8-hour feeding window and portion control. What do I mean by modified? I know that for me, it's difficult to have an 8-hour feeding window. So what I do is I generally start my day with a like kind of a pre-workout meal. Usually it'll be I've been using a product called Collagen Up Plus that I helped develop. But basically a branched chain amino acid mix or some sort of high quality protein, and then I go work out first thing in the morning. Then in the evening, before I go to bed, I like to have a cup of hot cocoa. I use raw cacao, usually almond milk or coconut milk, and I use my allulose-based sweetener, which I'll tell you about later. I find that makes it very easy for me to eat within a window of like 10:30 in the morning till 6:30 at night. So yeah, that's what I do, and that's what I mean by modified intermittent fasting with an 8-hour feeding window. And I have here underlined and portion control, because it doesn't matter if you do intermittent fasting and have a very short feeding window. If you're eating in excess of your caloric needs, or you have no portion control, you're not going to be successful with intermittent fasting. You're also not going to be successful with intermittent fasting if the quality of your nutrition is quite poor. And the research is quite clear on that. Next, we can activate GLP-1 and AMPK, which I'll describe in just a minute, with natural metabolic aids. And these are fantastic ways to help people reset their metabolism to mechanisms that will help them retain muscle and burn fat. First of all, one of my key dietary recommendations is to eat a rainbow diet and take advantage of superfood powders. I'm drinking water here, but normally during the day, I don't drink a lot of water. Plain. I spice it up with superfoods or electrolyte mixes or vitamin C powders. Just makes it more interesting for me. And I think superfood powders are great gifts. They're concentrated in phytonutrients and important phytochemicals. I like this idea of a rainbow diet. I've been talking about this, let's see, for almost 45 years. I had this epiphany when I was taking a physics class that we're basically beings of light, right? Light and energy, waves and mass. And if you look at a spectrum, it has all these different colors. And I think that our diet is really designed to be full of all these different plant compounds that have various physiological effects, but also differing colors. Different colors reflect different types of chemicals. And if we focus on a diet that's rich in color, we're going to have a great shield of armor against oxidative damage. We're going to be ingesting things that are great for our microbiome and exert a lot of anti-aging and anti-cancer effects. So we've got to mix it up. Many people eat the same foods over and over again. Color is just an easy way to make sure that you're mixing your diet. We know that the microbiome is influenced greatly by variety, and having a lot of different plant foods in your diet with different colors is a great way to achieve that variety. You've all seen the famous traditional healthy Mediterranean diet pyramid. I'm going to take it one step further. So you've all have seen this. There's a couple of things that I wipe out. These are the things that I wipe out. First of all, I don't think there's any real health benefits to wine or alcohol. I think that the data doesn't support that these alcoholic beverages at any intake level provides any real health benefits. And on the flip side, there's data that shows that these are actually quite harmful to our health. So I don't recommend any alcohol consumption. Then I also don't recommend sweets or any grains, pasta, bread. I think when we were out working hard and burning a lot of calories every day, our body could handle a little bit of complex carbohydrates, but most people aren't getting the physical activity that's required to make these foods healthy for our diet. So I would eliminate them entirely, and I'd focus the diet on these foods here. I think that's a very healthy diet that reflects my dietary strategies and practices. I've done the same thing here with the traditional healthy Asian diet pyramid. You could do it with the Latin diet. Any traditional diet, you can get rid of the the grains and the complex carbohydrates, the sweets and the alcohol, and I think you have a pretty healthy diet. So I think this goes a long way in helping people stabilize blood sugar levels, improve insulin sensitivity, feed the microbiome in a very healthy way that can promote improved metabolism and weight loss. So it starts with diet. It starts with lifestyle, and then we can look at supplementation. These are the what I think are the top 5 natural GLP-1 alternatives. I'm going to start with PGX and then move on to berberine. We'll talk about Akkermansia muciniphila, and we'll talk about oleoethanolamide, OEA, and Morrisil. I think these are the 5 top natural GLP-1 alternatives. I'm going to preface the talk on these GLP-1 agonists from nature by talking about another target, a metabolic target for helping people lose weight, and that is AMP activated protein kinase. This enzyme system is very important to the activity and number of mitochondria. And when we have low AMPK activity, we have decreased numbers and function of mitochondria. This leads to increased abdominal fat, increased systemic inflammation, insulin resistance, and elevated blood sugar levels, elevated blood lipids, and cellular degeneration. So we don't want that. We don't want that happening. So how do we boost AMPK levels? These are all activators of AMPK. These are the things that we want to focus on. And I've highlighted things in green here that I think are really important to talk about. But all of these are important. Intense exercise, intermittent fasting, got to make sure people have adequate thyroid hormone. We want to improve the action and sensitivity of adiponectin. High viscous dietary fiber, PGX is at the top of that. Having the right oils in the diet, olive oil and polyphenols, EPA and DHA and medium chain triglycerides, all helpful. Mitochondrial enhancers are something to consider in certain patients as additional aids to help them lose weight. And alpha lipoic acid in general has been shown to have some significant benefits in helping people improve insulin sensitivity and lose weight. So I put that there. Creatine, carnitine, coenzyme Q10 are all very good considerations in helping people retain muscle mass and burn fat more efficiently. Flavonoids. I love flavonoids and polyphenols. They're true gifts from nature. Those that activate AMPK, anthocyanins, I'll talk about in the form of Morrisil. Curcumin is another option. Berberine's been getting a lot of attention as the natural Ozempic. I'll give you some of my thoughts there. And allulose is the holy grail of sweeteners, and I'll briefly touch on allulose. Okay, these are all good things, but there are some things that inhibit the activity of AMPK, and we have to remove these obstacles. In general, a high-fat diet, so I'm not a big keto diet fan. Too much fat, particularly the wrong types of fat, I think are detrimental to AMPK. Caloric excess, you got to get the portion under control, portion sizes under control, and the quality of nutrition up. Sedentary lifestyle, move, not just exercise, but movement throughout the day. And we have to slow down that aging process. All important strategies in overall health and helping people lose weight. So allulose, the holy grail of sweeteners, it's naturally occurring. It's about 80% as sweet as sucrose, but only 1/10 the calorie. It's absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract, but it's not metabolized. So it doesn't cause the gas and bloating that sugar alcohols cause, like xylitol or erythritol. It's absorbed and then excreted. It does activate AMPK levels, and this is why in animal and human studies it's been shown to improve blood sugar control and metabolism. And the health benefits and safety have been confirmed in human double-blind placebo-controlled studies. It supports weight loss. I'm a big fan of allulose. I came out with my own mixture. What I did here is I worked with a company and we produced a superior granulation. So it's a true 1-to-1 ratio in terms of sweetness to regular sugar. It measures like sugar. It has a tremendous mouthfeel, and there's no aftertaste. It's very pleasant. We just granulate it different. A lot of people are just mixing these two together. We have a very special process to make sure that they're actually bonded together. So this superior granulation makes it taste better and taste more like sugar. Super clean, non-GMO, and I'm offering this at a great price on iHerb. So if you're interested, get to iHerb. I think if you've tried allulose or monk fruit, and it hasn't quite worked for you, give this one a try. I think you're going to love it. I think it's the best product out there. Okay, next I want to talk about polyglycoplex, or PGX. Along with Dr. Michael Lyon in Natural Factors, I helped develop and commercialize this dietary fiber matrix. It's a very unique matrix. We take 3 natural fibers, xanthan gum, alginate, and glucomannan from konjac root. And through a special patented process, we actually combine them to form a new molecule, a new matrix. And this matrix is able to bind more water than any other known fiber. It binds more than 600 times its weight. It's really an enhanced form of fiber, and it is able to produce clinical results at practical dosages. So, a 5-gram dose of PGX in terms of its ability to bind water and form a viscous mass would be equal to about 100 grams of other types of soluble fiber. So, getting 100 grams of psyllium or 100 grams of oat beta-glucan or 100 grams of other viscous fibers, it's not practical, and it would be very uncomfortable for people. But this is very safe and effective at these reasonable doses of up to 5 grams 3 times a day. So just quickly to review some of the unique benefits of PGX. It has significant scientific research behind it. You can go to pgx.com and read the scientific portfolio. It's very impressive. This really is one of the most important products in the world right now in helping people reduce their appetite, improve insulin sensitivity, and improve blood sugar control, and promote effective weight loss. It does increase GLP-1, but it also increases the level of other compounds that block the appetite and promote satiety. It decreases the level of compounds that stimulate overeating. It reduces postprandial after-meal glucose levels, reduces the glycemic index of any food or beverage. It increases insulin sensitivity. So they show it decreases blood insulin levels. That means that the cells are regaining their ability to respond to insulin, and that leads to improved blood sugar control. It also lowers blood cholesterol and triglycerides like other soluble fiber. For the glycemic effect, the dosage is 1 to 2.5 grams before meals. To help people lose weight and to promote satiety, the dose has to be at least 5 grams before meals. It is a fiber. If people aren't used to taking it, initially it may cause some gas and looser stools. That only occurs in about 10% of patients. Most people can tolerate it very easily from the very get-go. So, don't be afraid to recommend PGX. It is a fiber, so those drugs like metformin that are recommended on an empty stomach, take those 1 hour before or after PGX. It doesn't interfere with nutrient absorption. It just delays it. It occurs over a longer period of time. Okay, next, let's talk about berberine. This word cloud is looking at the berberine research from 1985 to 2018. I haven't seen one recently, but we would definitely see GLP-1 up there with berberine. We'd also see Akkermansia and mucinophilia. Lots of great research on berberine. It is a true superstar in the botanical medicine field. It's one of the most valuable compounds from plants that we have in our natural pharmacy. As a weight loss aid, there have been at least 12 double-blind placebo-controlled studies. These studies show significant effect on weight loss, better effects on some of the other markers of metabolic health. There's recently been a new form of berberine entered into the market, and this may produce even better results. One of the problems with regular berberine is that it's poorly absorbed. Indina, the company behind phytosomes, they developed a berberine phytosome, and this graph is showing you the blood levels of berberine with berberine chloride versus a 550 milligram dose of berberine phytosome, providing 188 milligrams of berberine once a day versus twice a day. So we see significant dose-dependent increases in berberine with the phytosome form. We're going to see more advanced forms, like we've seen advanced forms of curcumin be developed, or quercetin. We know that many of these active compounds from plants are poorly absorbed or quickly metabolized, so they're using modern techniques to improve the bioavailability and action. So I think this berberine phytosome research is very interesting, and it has shown some effects in polycystic ovarian disease, as well as in people that are overweight and pre-diabetic. This summary here shows that 550 milligrams twice a day, and I think that's the dose that's going to be required to see weight loss. 550 milligrams once a day may be enough to see some improvements in metabolic health, such as blood sugar measurements and blood lipids. But to get weight loss, I think you're going to need the 550 milligrams twice a day. And we see some modest weight loss, particularly visceral adipose tissue decreased by 11%. That's where we want the weight being lost. Overall fat mass, 6%. So what this means is that most of the weight loss or fat loss with berberine phytosome was with that visceral fat, and that's the hormonally active fat mass that we have in our body. So this is very helpful. Now, here's something else to consider. We're talking a lot about, I've been talking a lot about improved absorption. Improved absorption may not always equal improved pharmacological effects. We know that many of the effects of drugs, even a drug like metformin, are related to the effects on the microbiome more than a direct pharmacological effect. Berberine, similar. So in particular, berberine has been shown to promote the growth of Akkermansia mucinophilia. Now, this intestinal microorganism is a true superstar. It's critical to the health of the mucin layer that protects the intestinal lining and maintains the proper structure of that intestinal lining. Mucin, you know what that means. Phila, you know what that means, love of. So this is a organism that loves mucin, and it works with our intestinal cells to turn over that mucin, and it stimulates the production of that mucin. Low levels of Akkermansia mucinophilia are associated with an increased risk of obesity, diabetes, inflammation, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and various metabolic disorders. Here's something that's starting to get understood. it's more effective as a heat-killed organism than it is a live organism. That's because there's proteins. One of them is AMUC 1100, but there are others now that have been identified that act as postbiotics that stimulate some very beneficial effects on the intestinal lining to help reduce inflammation, reduce the leaky gut, and reduce the absorption of gut-derived toxins. So we know that Akkermansia is a critical organism to the health of the intestinal lining. So on this slide, what you're looking at on the left side is what the intestinal lining looks like in someone who is obese or has diabetes or lots of intestinal inflammation. And on the right side, we have someone who is healthy and has an optimal intestinal lining. And what we see on the subject on the left is that there's a decrease in the thickness of the mucin layer, so that's thinner. There are different types of microorganisms in the intestinal tract. There's a lack of the Akkermansia, and that all leads to a leaky gut. And we get absorption of toxins like lipopolysaccharides, endotoxins, and that leads to fatty liver disease, inflammation, insulin resistance, and type 2 diabetes. In the healthy individual, they have some Akkermansia, that little squiggly line that's binding to that receptor site on that blue cell. That's an M cell. That is that protein, that AMUC 1100. And what that does is it tightens up those tight junctions. It reduces the absorption of the endotoxins, and it blocks all of these sequelae of the leaky gut. This is a beautiful mechanism of action and explains a lot of how Akkermansia muciniphila can be used to support the lining of our intestines. Now, I mentioned earlier the heat-killed bacteria outperformed the live bacteria. This was demonstrated back in 2019. And I talked to the researchers that conducted this trial, and they just threw this in just to see. They didn't expect the heat-killed bacteria to outperform the live bacteria. So they had 3 groups. They were given either a placebo, a live Akkermansia muciniphila, or a heat-killed or pasteurized Akkermansia muciniphila for 3 months. And what they showed was the heat-killed bacteria outperformed the live bacteria. And there's some concern with certain health conditions that maybe it's not a good idea to use the live bacteria because we don't want to promote an overgrowth of the Akkermansia. We want the benefits in tightening it up, but a thicker mucin layer is associated with certain health conditions. So I think that you're better off using heat-killed Akkermansia than live. That said, I think it's important to use strategies that promote Akkermansia muciniphila, and one of the key strategies there is berberine. Berberine stimulates the production of mucin that feeds the Akkermansia muciniphila, and it has some other supportive effects. So it's one of the key recommendations that support the growth of Akkermansia muciniphila. Others, digestive enzymes. If a person is insufficient in the secretion of their pancreatic enzymes, they will have dysbiosis, and they will have a reduced amount of Akkermansia muciniphila. So digestive enzymes are very important in enhancing the growth of Akkermansia muciniphila. Prebiotic fermentable fibers, PGX is a fantastic selection there. Others, I like resistant dextrin, tapioca fiber. It produces less gas. I like partially hydrolyzed guar gum. Then all of the others are good, but can cause some gas. Basically, the fructooligosaccharides. Fish oils are very important. They have been shown to increase the growth of Akkermansia muciniphila, particularly DHA. DHA is more active in that regard than EPA, so maybe for with intestinal inflammation, you might want to favor a fish oil that's richer in DHA over EPA. Berberine, I mentioned. Oleoethanolamide, I'll talk a bit about that, and then I'll talk about flavonoid-rich extracts with a focus on Morrisil. Okay, first, what is oleoethanolamide? This is a compound that is very interesting, and I love it. I love it for a lot of reasons. It's found in we can synthesize it in our body from oleic acid. It's also found in low concentrations in a variety of vegetable oils, including olive oil. And it acts to it's like a endocannabinoid. It's an endocannabinoid. If you look at the action of various cannabinoids and endocannabinoids, like various hemp compounds, as well as oh my gosh, PEA is a great example. These compounds, they all work to bind to receptor in the nucleus of our cells, PPAR receptors, and these PPAR receptors these are the hot targets in drug development now, because they are central to a cascade of cellular processes that lead to inflammation. So if you can influence PPAR receptors, you can stop inflammation in its tracks. So OEA exerts significant anti-inflammatory and metabolic effects through the endocannabinoid system. It's the true endogenous endocannabinoid. In a nutshell, it also exerts antidepressant activity, controls appetite and satiety, stimulates the breakdown of fat cells, promotes the burning of fat as energy. And here's an interesting effect. The satiety-inducing effects occur by activating specific areas in the brain that release oxytocin. And you probably think of oxytocin as the love hormone. It has a lot of physiological effects, creating that bond between the mother and infant, or between man and woman. And it also has an effect on food intake and our mood. And basically, OEA is a natural oxytocin enhancer. So with increased oxytocin, we get decreased food intake, and that's one of the ways that OEA reduces food intake. It also has some effects on the endocannabinoid system and on dopamine. But the overall net effect is to reduce food intake. Here's a study that was done in rats showing that OEA stimulates oxytocin secretion from the hypothalamus. There is clinical research. Here was a study back in 2018. Subjects were given 125 milligrams of OEA twice daily for 60 days. Let's look at some of the results in this. What they showed was There wasn't significant amounts of weight loss in between the groups, but look at the effects on the waist circumference, the very last measurement. In the placebo group, their waist circumference was increased by 0.5 centimeter, while in the OEA group, it dropped by almost 5 centimeters. That's a lot. So that's what we want. The weight didn't really change that much, but that may be because we're burning more fat, retaining muscle. That's evident because of looking at the waist circumference. They were losing visceral fat. They're losing belly fat. BMI, yeah, there was a change, but not significant. So they lost the waist circumference was reduced, but body mass and weight didn't really change. So I think if they would have done a deeper investigation, they would have found that it promoted fat breakdown and muscle retention, and that's what we want. The last natural weight loss aid I want to talk about is Morrisil. There's a lot of others that I could have chosen, but I really like this product. It just got a great romantic story about it. It's produced from a unique cultivar of blood oranges from Sicily. Blood oranges from Sicily are different from any blood oranges in the world, and that's because they are grown on Mount Etna, and the soil is different, and the stress, environmental stress, altitude, weather changes, that stress leads to a higher concentration and a different concentration of these anthocyanins. And these are the plant pigments responsible not only for the color in the blood orange, but also in some of its health benefits. And Morrisil has been studied in double-blind studies, and in these studies, they showed significant changes on body weight, BMI, hip and waist circumference, and body composition. So this was a more detailed study than what we saw with OEA. And what we see with body weight, we see, let's look at the 6-month, 4.2% drop, more than almost twice as much as compared to the placebo. Same thing with the waist circumference, and same thing with the hip circumference. Significantly greater effects in the Morrisil group. So those are my thoughts on some ways that you can utilize natural approaches in helping people lose weight. I think if you piece everything together, diet, lifestyle, and a supplement strategy, you can achieve results over time on par with GLP-1 agonists in terms of overall weight loss. But in terms of health impact, do I think that if somebody takes a GLP-1 agonist and makes very little changes in their diet and lifestyle, it's going to really impact their health? The answer is no. I really don't think that's the answer. If we're talking about improving health, I really think the natural approach is the way to go. Now, if someone wants to use GLP-1 agonists, absolutely, they need to support themselves. And if you want to know what I recommend for people in supporting themselves while they're on GLP-1 agonists, please go to this article that I wrote on iHerb. It addresses some of the side effects on the GI tract and what you can do to help with the gastroparesis caused by these drugs. It talks a little bit about how we can utilize nutritional approaches to help retain muscle mass. And it also talks about what we can do to build collagen up so that people don't get Ozempic face or loss of collagen and other connective tissue function, not only in their face, but throughout their body. So that's a good article to take a look at. If you're interested in my work, please follow me at on my website. If you go to my website, sign up for my email newsletter. I address timely topics in natural medicine. Also follow me on Instagram. And I'm going to give a little plug for my book, The Magic of Food. Now, all the books behind me are books that I've written, and they're like children. I love them all. But this book, The Magic of Food, I probably spent more time writing that book than any other book other than the textbook of natural medicine. Yet this book was my least commercially successful. I think it was, it just, maybe the title was wrong, but the title I thought was really brilliant because what I wanted to get across is that I came up with the idea, the magic of food, because in this day and age, we have the false belief that the greatest technology in the world is something that we can hold in our hands. And while I agree that man has created a lot of fantastic technology, the truth is that the greatest technology in the universe is nature. And the way that we commune with nature on a daily basis is through the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, and the water that we drink. And I got the idea of titling this book, The Magic of Food, from Sir Arthur Clarke, who wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey. And what Sir Arthur Clarke said was that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I love that. And I've dedicated my life to trying to understand the technology in food and in nature. And I think that we've just scratched the surface of it. It's amazing. And it's been a love affair of mine, learning about how these gifts from nature are utilized to promote our health and protect us. So I know that all of you watching this have been moved by nature yourself, and that's why you're still with me at the very end of this presentation. So I think you'd really like this book, because what I did in this book is I crystallized a lot of important concepts, principles, and really cool data to support just how magical food is. So it's been a few years now since that book has been out, but I think it's still very salient, and I encourage you to get it. I think you'd love it. So that's it. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this. Please give feedback to the team so that we know how to make things better for you. And hopefully we can do an interactive conference at some point. And I would like that. I would just like to have a free forum to touch on all sorts of different topics. This is fun for me. I like sharing, and I hope that it's been useful for you. And you've chosen a great profession, because you've chosen one where your success is really predicated upon your ability to help people improve the quality of their lives. So keep that in mind, and stay motivated, stay on task, and thank you again.